Welcome to Into the Nuance, compassionate, evidence-based pre-med advising. Join us each episode as we unravel the complexities, debunk myths, and explore the many paths to medical school. Whether you're a freshman or a pre-med veteran, we are here to provide informed, realistic, and hopeful advice on your journey. Tune in for interviews with experts, stories of triumph, and useful tips as you continue towards medical school. This is Into the Nuance, and we're so glad you're here.
Hey, future doctors. Welcome to the debut episode of Into the Nuance. I'm Joanne Snapp, founder of My Honest Advisor, and one of your co-hosts here to provide some clarity on the pre-med application process. I'm joined by two of my colleagues and good friends, Doug and Amanda. Doug, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Doug McLemore. I'm founder of ICOSA Prep, and I'm looking forward to being able to share my experience in the world of test prep and tips and strategies on how to study during those pre-med years for your math and science classes and all those kinds of things you can know. And there's also Amanda over here.
Yeah, so I'm Amanda Brem. I founded the Brem Method, which is a test prep and academic success company. And I'm really excited to share my insights around testing anxiety, the stress of going through the pre-med process. I do a lot of work on mental health and mental wellness in my coaching, and I'm excited to both share that and get to talk with my awesome colleagues here about how we can support you in the pre-med process.
So all of us have been in this industry for quite a while. I'll tell you a little bit about my background, and Amanda and Doug can share theirs. So I started out in the pre-med world way back in 2007 when I started out as an assistant director of admissions. Jumping forward a couple of years, I lived in New York City for 8 years. I was the director of admissions at an allopathic med school for a few years before I jumped all the way across the country to California, where I served as the director of advising for a department at a large public university in California. And that's really where I started to form my perspective on holistic advising and culturally appropriate advising for many of the diverse applicants that I serve. Today, I have my own company. I work with students from across the country, pre-meds, pre-dental, pre-vet, but mostly pre-meds, and helping them navigate this really complicated, not intuitive process of applying to medical school. And so having served as a director of admissions, I have that perspective of what do admissions committees look for. I've visited over 20 medical schools, so hearing just the perspectives of a lot of different admissions folks, and then pairing that with the years of experience I've had as an advisor is really the perspective that I want to bring to you and give you a lot of the insight and the perspective that people don't often talk openly about. And that's what this podcast is all about, is getting into the nitty-gritty of how to successfully navigate this process.
Awesome. And Joanne, I have a couple questions for you on your journey. One of which was, what made you realize that you could serve students kind of on your own outside of an institution? And what do you think that has done to help students that you work with and yourself in this process?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't part of the plan. I was really happy at the university that I was working at. When my family decided to move out of state and head to the Midwest, I knew that I didn't want to give up on this career. I have so much knowledge in my head and so many skills that I've built over the years. And so the next natural progression was starting a company where I could continue to do this work, but really broaden that scope and serve people from all over. So when I worked at the university, I could only help people at that university, which always felt, limiting because there were always people coming to me asking for help. And I always had to say, no, I can't help you. I work for the university. And now I don't have to say no. I help as many people as I can.
Which is so awesome.
It's fun. I love it. How about you, Doug? How did you get where you are?
So that's a long, strange trip that started, 30 years ago when I first started out life going into chemistry. I worked as a chemist for a little while and chemistry professor, and that took me into test prep in a weird way. The school I was working at the time ended up starting an MCAT program and said, here's a book, go teach students. And then the rest is history. But now I'm able to work with a lot more students across the country, focusing on a lot of like thinking about how you're thinking and the science behind learning. There's a lot of science in there since I'm the science guy. So I kind of have a bend towards trying to support all the different techniques and things I work with students with actual researched evidence. So, and Also, I'm really good at taking tests, and I hope to teach people like some of those tricks that they can come along with that.
Awesome. And
oh,
go ahead, Joanne.
Amanda. I was just gonna say it's really, I was just thinking about this. Like, it's really funny how my journey has connected both of you. I've connected with both of you through my journey. Doug and I met at the university where I came from. I actually hired Doug at that university. And so Doug and I have been working together for quite a while in different capacities. And in a different university, it's where I was introduced to Amanda. And so, Amanda, how did you get where you are?
Yeah, and it was great meeting you, Joanne, back. I think it was a couple winters ago where we were both kind of slogging along trying to help that particular cohort of students. For me, I was a pre-med myself, which I think is a very common story for people who want to help future pre-meds. Is I went through the process, I took the MCAT twice, I did all the shadowing, and along the way realized honestly that I had no money and needed to have a job. And I started teaching MCAT prep, partially because I'd done well myself and partially because I'd always loved teaching. And in the process of that, I realized that I didn't want to do anything else. I just was so happy teaching and working with students. And the biggest reason why that was is students really needed the support, is what I found. It wasn't just a job, it was students were really desperate for support and guidance in the test prep side of their pre-med journey. And there were very few people that were offering the kind of help that I had needed when I was going through the process, which was just empathetic support. Not, hey, you need to be studying this, but hey, how are you feeling today? And maybe take a break and maybe go see your family. And that kind of support was the kind that I wanted to provide. And it's been really exciting to be able to do that full time ever since. And also not have to go to medical school and still get to use my journey in a way that's really helpful for students.
And I think that part, what you just said, is what really attracted me to you when we first were introduced to each other. Because, and Doug too, I've heard you talk a lot about addressing the psychological aspects of this process. And that's something that I find I do all the time in the work. Yes, there's like the very technical and transactional aspects of all of our jobs where we have to literally teach you how to do things. But I think one thing that I really love about all three of us in the work that we do is we recognize that our students, our applicants, are whole people, right? Mm-hmm. They're not just test takers, and they're not just med school applicants. They're people with backgrounds and lives and challenges and traumas and partners, and they have, everybody brings a lot to the table. And it's so important as we help you that we recognize all of those things. And so that you're going to hear that a lot from us as we talk about how you can best prepare for this. We're going to be addressing a lot of the other stuff that goes into how do you successfully navigate this journey as whole people, right?
Totally. And I think one of the things that the reason we all connected together is we all have a similar philosophy that there is no one answer for every pre-med student, and there's no one way to go about this process. And Doug, something you and I have talked a lot about is kind of the different ways that different students need to be coached. And I'd love to hear you talk more about, I know a lot about it, but I'd love for the students, for you to talk more about how you coach different students with different needs through learning science, through learning test prep.
So one of the things that I seem to have a reputation for with like referrals and things like that is being able to work with students that are have some kind of learning disability or learning difference, and being able to like work with that within those constraints. I think that's something that is often missing a lot of times, is just being able to try new things and target students that need different type of help instead of a one size fits all type scenario. I have that experience because I too come from I'm being on the autism spectrum makes it so that, I often have difficulties in those kinds of things as well. And so it helps, I like to help students get out of certain situations that, they might feel are holding them back in not just taking tests or studying for classes or for applications, but just in just life in general. So I do like to try to help those kinds of students as much as I can, because I never had that help until I got older.
Absolutely. There's so much neurodiversity out there. And I think that's, again, what I love about you, Doug, is that you're very open and honest and transparent and really adaptable to each person that you're working with. So I'm so excited.
Yeah, I think this is going to be great. And I think a lot of students feel like they're the only ones struggling with these challenges, right? Like I'm the only one who is going through and I'm experiencing these challenges for the MCAT, or I'm the only one who, is raising a child and starting to go through my pre-med application. And I think realizing that you're not alone. And we have all worked with people like you who are challenged in different ways. And we have solutions for that, or at least advice to allow you to make this process successful and ultimately a good experience. And I think that's what I'm so excited about, is to share some stories too of students who've come to us with sometimes really big challenges and been able to overcome it and get to their goals in a successful way, but a way that also lets them be human at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Doug.
No, I was just going to say, and you also meet a lot of cool people that you get to talk to for years afterwards. So it's always fun to see them pop back up again and say, oh, wow, look, you're in med school now. Or, oh, wow, you're a doctor now. So it's nice to check back in with those folks.
Yeah,
I think we all have hundreds of students who are in med school, and we hope to bring a lot of them back in different, over the years and share their stories with you, so that you can learn from their experience as well.
Yeah, I started in 2018, 2019. So my first round of students are really hitting residency now. And it's just so exciting to see them like message me and be like, hey, this tips you told me still worked for the STEP exams too. So it's so fun to connect and see them reach their goals, but also develop the skills that we saw them struggle with originally. And now they're teaching it to others or being able to be successful with them. So it'll be fun to bring them on.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And I've been around so long. I've got like 2 generations in med school and passed and through it already.
Your pre-meds have retired already.
Okay, not that long.
Yeah, no, I think between the three of us, we span the generation of med students and doctors in this era, which is very cool. Really excited to share lots of stories, lots of advice, and really get into the nuance and the nitty-gritty of the application journey towards being a pre-med. So you can find us in our next episode wherever you like to listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and on our websites. I live at bremmethod.com, and I'm also on YouTube. Joanne is at myhonestadvisor.com, and I believe also on Instagram. And Doug, you're at icosaprep.com. And